We're back from recess, and with that, Madam Speaker, we'll allow you to continue your comments on
Thank you.
Senator
I was
Sanagusti's
just,
amendment.
thank you very much, Madam Chair. I was just pointing out that what they didn't report to us when we were deliberating the 24 budget was what they were not funding in FY23, despite our appropriations, the $15 million to GMH for capital improvement projects, the $569,000 for custom, $569,000 or $500,000 for customs and quarantine, the $1.8 million for village streets, roads and resurfacing, the $342,000 for detox and rehabilitation services, all of these super critical needs, and it's kind of like they don't put the money to the agency and it gets pushed down the road. So yes, our agencies are in critical need. We are pushing these things down the road, but unfortunately, we have to balance that our people are also in critical need, and I'm trying to find ways to help them as well, while providing them services through our agency, but also because we cannot control inflation and the cost of living, we can help them with relief on things such as energy credits and lifting of this tax if we can afford it. And it seems for today we can afford it, perhaps at the expense of other things, I agree. And so it's just very hard to weigh those apples for apples in the way that we are having these discussions. But I thank the author for this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Are there any other members here that would like to have a comment on Senator Sanagusti's amendment? Senator San Nicolas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator San Nicolas. With that, Senator Sanagustin, would you like to close on your amendment? Why don't we recess for a minute and see if we can track him down and see if closing comments. We're back from recess. Senator Sanagustin, you're recognized to close on your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have an amendment to my amendment. It was brought up by my colleagues. It is to just add on, if you look at the amendment, where it says appropriated to the Guam Highway Fund from the fiscal year 2024 general fund in excess of adopted revenues. It's just to identify it so we all understand where the money's coming from. And if my colleagues could support that.
Does anyone have an objection to this amendment language without having it written on paper? Senator Sanagustin, if you can repeat your amendment. You're looking at adding on excess revenues of 2024.
Right, it'll say after the word, after Guam Highway Fund, from the, and then they added on is fiscal year 2024 general fund in excess of adopted revenue. So that as my colleague's been speaking, it's about the surplus, the excess fund revenue. That's all that's where we're getting the money from. Thank you, Madam. And otherwise, there's nothing else other than asking my colleagues to support the amendment.
Madam Speaker, you wanted to comment on Senator Sanagustin's amendment to his amendment?
I just can't resist commenting on this, and I have no objection to the language. The language is good. I feel like I invented this language years ago when we tried to put money to GMH, remember? We tried so hard to give them money years ago when they could have fixed that place up a little bit and not see the problems that we have today. And they refused, said this language was junk, refused to give the money to GMH, and now this is the language that they use for everything that they want. And I just find it so ironic how things rotate and turn, and it's semantics, really. And I feel like it's really to the disservice of the people of Guam. But good amendment, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Senator Chris Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I agree. I know one of my colleagues had said previously that they want consistency from the body, and I know that we've had our share of disagreements this year over what consistency is, but it's not us. It's really trying to find the right combination of words that's going to unlock the funds from Adelup, you know what I mean? Because you get, like Senator A introduces an amendment with this language, and they're the Karida or the Karidu of the administration, and it goes through, or then Senator B introduces something with the exact same language, and Lana all of a sudden, Tasinia, it's a problem. So, I commend the author of this amendment in doing what we have to do is we got to find the right hoop to jump through in order to get the money that we need. And oftentimes, I know we're talking about spending the excess revenues, but look at what we're spending it on. We're spending it on extra cycles for the Guam Police Department, spending it on extra cycles for the Guam Fire Department, extra cycles for the Department of Corrections, extra funding for the Department of Education. So, I support this nifty use of language, and I echo the sentiments of the retiring speaker that it is ironic, but it also is what it is. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Barnett. Senator Frank Blas on the San Augustine's amendment to his amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I appreciate that. Now I know that my 5 minutes of ranting initially didn't go all for naught. And I brought that concern up because if the body can recall when the administration was brought in on previous pieces of legislation, and we were wondering, okay, where's this money coming from? And when you have the DOA director saying, oh, that money is basically coming from the general fund, and I said, from where in the general fund? And he goes, oh, that's the excess. I said, we don't give you permission to use excess. You use what is adopted. And with this language, what it is very clear. We have the adopted level, which is $909 million. And this language, if you're going to use what is excess, then you will identify it as excess above from there. This body has the authority to be able to appropriate. And it's the only body that can do that. And what this language would do was make sure that the administration recognizes. You cannot, while you can recognize that it's an excess, before you spend it, you have to get permission from this body. And that's what this amendment would be able to do. So I support the amendment. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Frank Blas. Senator Chris Duenas.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. And it is true. We've played the language game here. The difference here, though, is that this is a reduction of a tax, elimination of a tax, a moratorium on a tax. Many of us have introduced bills in this body to reduce the BPT back to 4%. And the purpose that we always talk about it is because we want to reduce the burden on businesses. Now, once again, as I stated earlier, unless the fuel companies are not telling the truth, the fact is that's exactly what we're doing here. We're putting a moratorium on this tax, and we're identifying this funding source that we have to replace with our revenue to make sure that we continue to make the highway fund whole. So yes, when we're appropriating excess revenues for the power credit, which passed using the general fund, this here is not just appropriating excess revenue. It's appropriating because we've taken the decision to put a moratorium on this tax. And Madam Chair, I agree with you, and I agree with the mover of the first bill. I hope the next bill is just get rid of this. And we will have the reports from the fuel companies and find out what they have to say to put it on the record that we did not collect this tax. Therefore, we have not had any increases associated with taxation. We've had increases associated with whatever their market forces are. But aside from that, we don't have to play this game anymore if we just decide. This body's always going to put roads at the forefront of its priority, and it's going to appropriate it in the budget, and there's no more shell game. But I will say, for the record, I'm going to continue to support any tax reduction. And if we've got to, wring the towel to get the information on exactly what happened there, then let's wring that damn towel. But the fact is here is, yes, we're going to play words. We're going to, this is the language, remember? But this is also, I was asking for consistency simply because of the fact that we've identified that as the funding source. But this is a replenishment because we have put this moratorium on this tax. And we need to realize that in our budget, or as the chairman said, we'll be short, and then we'll be doing the injustice of actually taking the money away from the highway fund. We have to have fiscal discipline now. It's going to be up to OFB to track. It's going to have to be marked to track. It's going to be rev and tax to track. What are we doing here? We passed this. The governor signed it. If that's what happens, then we got to account for that money, and that's no longer available for anything. So yes, we've played when the magic words work and when the magic words don't work. But the magic for me is we're reducing taxes, and we're making sure that we account for it in the general fund. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Duenas. Are there any of the colleagues that have any comments on the San Augustine amendment to his amendment? Are there any objections to the San Augustine amendment? Again, no objections. With that, the San Augustine amendment to the amendment passes. On Senator San Augustine's main amendment, are there any objections to Senator San Augustine's main amendment? No objections. With that, Senator San Augustine's original amendment passes. Okay, with that, we'll take a break and get a new chair up here. Thank you.
Committee Hall is called back to order. Now we'll move to the next amendment. The next amendment is introduced by Speaker Treaster Lai. My colleagues, you'll find it. You have the hard copy. I'd ask the Speaker to go ahead and read her amendment. Introduce her amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since this is our last round, I just wanted to say, I support this bill. I support this effort to give relief to the consumers. I'm very disappointed at the fuel companies that we can't get a simple declaration from them as to whether they are passing the savings on to the consumers or whether we are just giving savings to these fuel companies, because that's not our intention at all. We as a government, I think, need more transparency from our fuel companies. And we need transparency from the fiscal teams so that we can really prioritize the best use of our limited funds. The first amendment I'd like to do is to restore the exemption for the commercial aviation fuel taxes. In the previous bills that we have passed, where we've granted this gas tax relief to consumers, we did not exempt commercial aviation fuel from being taxed. And so my language is to add the words, except for liquid fuel used for commercial aviation purposes. That way it restores that we are going to tax commercial aviation fuel. Because I don't think we're going to affect the prices of airlines at this point.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone like to speak to that? Senator Fisher?
Thank you very much. If I could pose a question to Speaker Terlahi. The question being, why does she say this will not affect airplane ticket prices?
Okay, Madam Speaker, do you yield to the question?
Sure, because I believe those prices are not set based on our taxes. Those are set by these companies at their headquarters.
Senator Fisher, does that satisfy you? Or?
Well, yes, I did understand the Speaker's answer. I would just rejoin by saying prices throughout all markets are set by how much it costs to produce the good. So if it's going to cost more for Delta or Continental or whoever is flying from Guam to Hawaii, if it's going to cost them more to transport a passenger, I think we can say with great confidence that they will raise the ticket price.
I would yield to that, Mr. Chair.
That wasn't her question, but if she would like to comment, she's welcome to.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Madam Speaker, go ahead. 'Cause it wasn't a question.
That
but go ahead.
logic, you know, at first glance, of course, sounds correct. However, if you look at the prices for tickets to go to Saipan, which is just a few miles away from us, versus the prices for tickets to go to Japan, which is much farther away, that's not how prices work in the airline industry. So I'm just saying that's not, anyways, I hope that that's obvious to the public who are paying all these prices for airlines. The intent of the bill is to continue the levy relief that we have given in the past, and that did not include relief to commercial aviation. Thank you.
Thank you. I assume that was a comment to the response, so thank you very much, sir. I would ask, if I may have a follow-up question to the author of the amendment.
Yeah, please state your question.
Has she actually spoken to any airlines about this?
Stand by.
This is rude. Sir, is she ready to respond?
Not at this point. There's a question. The question is, please state your question again one more time, please.
Yes, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Has the offeror of this amendment actually spoken to any airlines?
Madam Speaker?
No, Mr. Chair, because as I said, all the bills that we've had public hearings on and that were passed by this legislature did not include commercial airlines.
Okay, so they're not exempt.
All right, thank you very much for the
All
answer.
right, thank you.
Thank you for the answer. So on this amendment, we are similarly flying in the dark. We have no real idea what the commercial and economic effect of this would be, except I would just reiterate that if it costs me more to produce a widget tomorrow than it will today, I will raise the prices. That is the way free enterprise works. So I think that we can anticipate, if this amendment passes, that an already, in my point of view, an exorbitantly priced ticket to Honolulu will cost more. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Senator Fisher. Does anyone else like to pose a question to the amendment? Senator Siniclas, please.
Are we speaking on the amendment, Mr. Chair?
That's correct. We're speaking on the amendment.
All right, you know, one of my favorite investors of all time is Warren Buffett. It actually says there's actually no money to be made in the airline industry because it's a capital-intensive industry. Costs a lot of money to move people around, and there's just no money to be made. That's why I never buy airline stocks. So with this, segregating the airline industry and not allowing them to take advantage of this will ultimately lead to higher prices for fares. And one of our staff here just walked up to me and mentioned how costly the fares are to the FSM, $800 to Chuk. I said you could get a first class ticket to Manila with $800. And so, taxes affect businesses, and not giving them exempting them from this will, in my most humble opinion, will eventually raise ticket fares, which is probably good, so we don't have all the people leaving. Maybe not. That's a joke. Well, I think it's going to raise ticket fares, and I don't think that's a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I have 5 more minutes.
Go ahead, continue.
Oh, no. Okay, thank you.
All right. I just want everyone, all my colleagues, to understand, if you look at the current law, just to add on information, the amendments that the speaker is proposing is to add commercial on it, because currently the way the bill's written, it doesn't add them. And if I'm correct, Madam Speaker, maybe you can speak to that, because it says except for liquid fuel tax, all levy of excess tax, fuel and everything. I'm assuming that that's what it means. You wanted to make sure commercial is part of this package.
Yes, I'm trying to make the bill that we received from the governor match the law that we have enacted in the past, which waives fuel taxes, right, for everyone except for commercial aviation.
Okay.
That's what we did in the past. So I'm saying now, I'm adding the words except for commercial aviation. I'm just making it consistent.
Understood.
All the other taxes shall be waived.
Got
right?
it. Okay, does everybody understand that? Maintain consistency, nothing else. No special treatment, okay? Senator Nicholas.
Sorry, sir, I didn't really understand that. I just saw except for liquid fuel.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Okay?
yeah, I retract everything I just said. Thank you.
Okay, so we're all in agreement, in general agreement or understanding of the amendment. Does anyone else like to speak to the amendment? If not, Madam Speaker, are there any objection to the amendment?
I'd just like to make clear on the record, so the media doesn't get it wrong, so this amendment that I'm putting in means that this bill will not change anything, any impact to the commercial aviation industry, but it will give relief to all other liquid fuels taxpayers.
Thank you. There's no objection. This amendment passes. My colleagues, we have no other amendments on the floor, on the table, okay? We only had 2.
I have 3.
You have 3 more?
I have 2 more. Right?
Only because when we open up, I know these 2 were here. Cor, move your mask so I can understand you. Can you?
I know, but you guys.
Committee of the Whole is called back to order. My colleagues, there's two other amendments, and I reviewed the amendments, and they're pretty much consistent with the bill. It actually helps us on some of the issues that were being discussed. Even though I should rule it out of order, unless someone would want me to rule it out of order, then I will. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on, and we just move on. It's being passed out, so let's take a 3-minute recess real quick, just so we can get the amendment out. The amendment is very simple. It's the reporting requirements that we've been asking for, and everybody's getting it right now. Okay? They all got it. Okay, so we'll move along. Madam Speaker, which one do you want to start with?
The long one, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
This is, it's long, but it's
All right.
actually the simpler one. This one is a reporting requirement for this new law that is almost identical to the reporting requirement in our previous laws. It says that the fuel company shall file a written declaration declaring that such relief or reduction from the taxes were in fact not collected from the consumer and are removed from the final cost of liquid fuel products. And I added, Mr. Chair, and declaring the number of gallons of gas sold per month that were exempt from the liquid fuel tax pursuant to this act. I'm hoping that this is going to help us to keep track of what we are waiving, and that way we will know whether it's really having an impact or not, or to help us know. So I hope my colleagues will support this reporting requirement. Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak to this? If not, are there any objection to this amendment? Huh? Oh, yes, that's, okay, then, you know what? I'm going to give it at least a 3-minute recess to allow my colleagues to not only read this one, but read the next one. And then we'll come back. I'll ask if there's no objection. We'll go ahead and pass it and move on, and we'll move to the next one. Thank you. We're on recess. May the House call back to order. Now that everybody had enough time, does anyone like to comment to the amendment? Senator Sinclair? Yes, if you can comment to the amendment?
Yes, sir. I have some concerns here. Here it says gallons of gas sold per month that were exempt from liquid fuel tax. Here, and declaring the number of gallons of gas sold per month. As a businessman, that's kind of like a trade secret. That's why in business you have non-disclosure agreements with people you hire, so you don't send out those type of important information that are only privy to management or businesses, so you remain competitive, and I think this is unfair. Could you imagine imposing this on a retailer? How many toilet tissues, I have to report to you how many tissue I sold for the month. That's, I don't think that is right, and I don't think that the government should be doing that to businesses. I have nothing further, Mr. Chair.
So you object to the amendment?
Objection.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak? Senator Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is really a question about, that I would put to the author of the amendment. It's really a question about nomenclature. On the first line of the amendment, she refers to every person or business. The liquid fuels tax refers to distributors. Could she explain why we have changed the word from distributors to person or business? And as a follow-up to that, if we adopt persons or businesses, does that affect more people than merely distributors?
Madam Speaker, do you yield to the question?
I'll yield to the question, and frankly, this language was copied exactly from the current law, the one that has exempted businesses from paying the liquid fuels tax in the past. So I'm trying to make sure that we just continue with the same requirement. That part I did not change, it's identical. So I don't know why the original law has these people or persons or business, but it seems effective, Mr. Chair. So I don't want to change that part. I'm just copying the previous law.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That answered the first part of the question, but I'll follow up with that. Does the Speaker believe that Section 26402 of 11 GCA supports what she just said? It reads, "There is hereby levied and shall be assessed and collected upon every distributor, in addition to, et cetera, and so forth."
Madam Speaker? Can you repeat the question one more time so that...
Yes, please. I'm just inviting the good speaker's attention to 11 GCA 26402, where it does not, and she may be picking this up from a different section, I don't know, but this refers specifically to the levy, who will be levied on, who's going to pay the excise tax. There is hereby levied and shall be assessed and collected upon every distributor. It doesn't say person or business. And the reason I bring that up is, words mean things. So my question is, if the universe of persons or businesses is larger than the universe of distributors, in other words, now will this tax exemption, or this requirement rather, will it spread to cover more than merely those subject to the liquid fuel tax?
Madam Speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The language in this amendment is going to apply only to those who are no longer subject to the payment of excise taxes pursuant to this act, whether that be a person, a business, and I would a distributor is going to be either a person or a business. I mean, I'm not going to argue the semantics of it. All I'm saying is it only affects those who would have been paying and now are not paying pursuant to this act. So if a distributor wants to say they are included, they are included. Distributors are defined as any person who refines, manufactures, produces, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think these words are going to have any effect of narrowing or expanding. It only by its terms affects those who are going to receive relief pursuant to other provisions of the act. This is just the reporting. So those who did receive relief pursuant to the bill that we're passing, those people, according to my amendment, will report. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you for that response. I see I still have a few moments left. The reality of the situation is person or business is not synonymous with distributor. So if we chuck distributor and now we say person or business, we've just invited a whole new group of people into the room who are now exempt from the liquid fuels tax. That's why I began my remarks on this amendment by saying words mean things. And these words, none of us in this room have had an opportunity to really think about this particular amendment or its impact or who a person or business is. I can assure you that many people will be in the future looking to see who a person or business is and whether or not they are different from a distributor. I think that this amendment I suppose maybe is well-meaning, but I don't think it's completely baked yet. And it might be something that we could visit in the future when we actually understand the thrust and impact of what we're doing. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Senator Tyree?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and my colleagues, if you recall at the very beginning of this session, I asked Steve from OFB to read Section 5 of Public Law 36-105, which is the Gas Tax Relief Act that was passed by this body. Well, actually, in the 36th Guam Legislature, it was passed. And then since then, it's been, it continues to, actually, they're continuing to waive these taxes. This is like the second time, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair, to try and extend the tax credit or the Tax Relief Act. And I asked him to read Section 5, which is exactly what this amendment is. It's exactly, except at the end. Except at the end where we can provide even more information to this body on how much savings our people are really getting. And the only difference is, colleagues, is and declaring the number of gallons of gas sold per month with the that were exempt from the liquid fuel tax pursuant to this act. So anybody objecting to this amendment, it's not the amendment itself or even scrutinizing the whole thing, because that's exactly what we're extending here is the Gas Relief Act, which has already been passed. We're trying to get additional information from these oil companies to ensure whatever they're giving, we give them in tax relief, that it's going to the consumer, not to themselves. And anybody who's exempt from taxes, like a nonprofit organization, for instance, they all have to put their reports in the newspaper, how much money they make, what they spent it on, their expenditures, all have to be reported when you get tax exemptions. So to say this is proprietary, on businesses, no, not when you're getting this type of relief. It's different if you're not. That's all what this amendment does. Just adds another area in which we can keep tabs of what our taxes are being paid for. and if it is going to the consumer. So if you're going to object to this amendment, I went to legal actually earlier before we started and asked to make sure that this bill incorporates everything from the original bill that was passed, the Gas Tax Relief Act. And I specifically asked our legal, does Section 5, is it still included if this bill from the governor's office passes? Is Section 5 still holding? And she said, yes, it still applies. It still applies. So even if this amendment doesn't pass, it still applies. What you're going to miss out on is you're going to miss out on the declaring the number of gallons of gas, declaring the number of gallons of gas sold per month with the exemption from that were exempt from the liquid fuel tax pursuant to this act. That's additional information, people. And once again, if we're giving these exemptions to companies like nonprofit organizations, anyone else we give these tax reliefs to, they are required to report it. It's not proprietary. These gas companies can say, you know what, I'd rather not have you waive these, the levy on the taxes for liquid fuel. I'll pay it so that I don't have to give you that report. They have the choice. They're not mandated. These gas companies are not mandated, right?
You got 19 seconds, Senator Tello.
And okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I get it. I know you're hungry. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Senator Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think it's clear that some of my colleagues don't have a problem with the content of the amendment. They have more a problem with the individual who wrote it. And again, this has worked in the 4 times that we have offered this gas tax relief.
Point of inquiry,
This,
sir.
excuse me,
Point of
sir,
inquiry.
Mr.
Point of
Chair.
inquiry.
Wait,
Yes.
well,
Point of inquiry, sir. To which senators was Senator Barnett referring?
okay, I'm hoping it's not attacking on anybody.
Thank you,
Go
Mr. Chair.
ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Senator Barnett.
Like I said, like I was saying, this language has been good enough. This is the 4th time we're extending this relief. The first 3 times it was great. And we're not asking for any of Big Oil's secrets. All we're doing is putting a little bit more gumption in this, because obviously, as we learned today, they're not reporting anything except for one IP&E, Shell, thank you. And they're short too. so.
Senator Titlery, you're out of order. Now,
Thank
come
you,
on
ma'am.
now.
Sorry.
Let's one
Thank-
speak.
thank
Nobody
you, Mr.
spoke when you spoke. Continue, Senator Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so this is, I support this amendment as well as the author of the amendment, and I just want to amend the amendment, if that's okay, and if I could just do that. I want to amend here on the last line. It says, declaring the number of gallons of gas sold per month that were exempt from the liquid fuel tax pursuant to this act. I just want to ensure that we're also mandating that these big oil companies report the diesel as well. And so if I could strike gas and just replace that with liquid fuel, and if we could do that without, as some of my colleagues like to say, without killing a tree, we could support that.
Senator Barnett, you wanted to strike, it says cost of liquid fuel. What did you want to put?
So,
I'm looking for the gas part.
okay, so yeah, right where you're at, from the final cost of liquid fuel products for consumers and declaring the number of gallons of, it says gas?
Oh,
I don't wanna
maybe
strike-
or just
slash,
strike gas and just say
And then put
fuel.
liquid fuel, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Are there any objection to that? I don't think there is. So we'll go ahead, and if the clerk will make sure they make. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And Merry Christmas, Mr. Chair. Sidos Masi.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the amendment? If not, we already know there is an objection. Senator Paris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that when oil companies import oil, they have to register the amount that's coming in through Guam Environmental Protection Agency. So I don't think this is a trade secret. But in regards to, perhaps the language, if I can have a quick recess to ask the author if she'd be okay with the change in language. Yeah.
You want to recess to speak with the author?
Or if I can maybe propose.
Pose a question, maybe?
Or actually, if I can propose an amendment. Oh, wait, sorry,
Okay.
there's already amendment to the amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if I could.
Okay, we'll take a quick recess. Committee Hall is called back to order. Senator Paris, you want to speak on the amendment?
Sure. So I
Okay.
think the key part of this amendment is that for those that are no longer, the part where it says no longer subject to the payment of excise taxes. So like was said earlier, the distributor is the one that pays these taxes. And so this amendment would apply to distributors. We hope that the retailers are going to pass on the savings, but they themselves are not paying the tax. So I think this amendment, it works. In regards to the gallons of gas sold, I think, we're all trying to figure out, is the investment that we're putting towards, or the money that we're putting towards relief, are we getting our return on investment? And I think we need some sort of benchmark to be assured that we are getting a return on this investment. In fact, the relief, right? We're giving money back to the people, right, or the taxpayers, and we want to make sure that it really is going back to them. So I rise in support of this benchmark of gallons sold, for that reason. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to speak? I think everybody's covered. Do you need to close on this? If not, I'm going to ask for if there are any objections, Speaker. Okay, there is one objection. All in favor, please raise your hand high enough so I can make sure I count it. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Failed, okay, 5. Now we go to the next amendment. Madam Speaker, the next amendment is, what we did was we had the clerk merge what was passed amendment with her amendment. So, Madam, yes? Okay, stand by, colleagues. I've just been advised by the Corps. We were voting on Senator Barnett's amendment to change the gas to fuel, okay? Liquid fuel. So we're gonna vote again one more time. I understood we passed that already. That's where we're going to the main amendment as amended. And that failed, okay? Okay, now we'll proceed to the next amendment. Madam Speaker and my colleagues, the amendment you find in your hand is, we had passed already one amendment which added the except, but what we needed to do was, because the other amendment came in after already we approved the except, and we made sure it merged together because it's really one amendment. And with that, Madam Speaker, I think the only one that's really changed there is reported, but payments shall be waived. That's the only difference. Does anybody, Madam Speaker, if you can speak on that one, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the third amendment that I have is it's to add the words reported, but payments shall be. And that is to be into this section 1 of the bill. The bill reads, except for liquid fuel used for commercial aviation purposes, all levy of excise taxes, automotive surcharges, and mass transit automotive surcharges on liquid fuel shall be, and it used to say waived for the remainder of the fiscal year. I want it to say now, shall be reported, but payments shall be waived. And the reason for this is similar to the previous amendment, and that is, it's like what we do for GRT when we give a tax exemption. They still report how much they should have paid on GRT and how much they're being exempted. And that allows us as a government to use that information. Our goal, we have been unable as a government to make any dent in the fuel prices. And I think we should at the very minimum know how much fuel is being sold on Guam. And we are entitled to that information. We have been receiving that information. Reventax can easily tell us an estimate of how many gallons of gas each distributor is selling because of the amount of taxes that they were paying before. So when we're waiving the taxes, I think we should still be entitled to the exact same information, and they are entitled to not pay. We're giving them a benefit. We're asking for a very minimal, something that they already do, before we waive the taxes. They had to tell us how much taxes they are indebted to the government. And if you just, you know, divide that by the 19 cents or the 23 cents, however you calculate their deduction, you can tell how many gallons of gas is. So I don't think it's a secret. I think it's something very reasonable for a government to want to know. And we are waiving taxes on it. I think we should know how much taxes we are waiving when we do this, just like we do for GRTs, Mr. Chair. So I
Yes.
very much ask my colleagues who support relieving the businesses of these taxes, relieving the consumers of these taxes, that you help us to continue to do this by getting the reports that we absolutely need to show
Madam
what
Speaker,
transactions are being made on Guam.
If you can give that verbiage again, because I think all my colleagues just need to know. Remember
Yes, so I'm adding, right now, the bill says the levy shall be waived. And I'm changing it to read, the levy shall be reported, but payments shall be waived for the remainder of fiscal year.
All right. Does everybody understand that? So that the clerk will. Gwen, you got it? Huh?
All the copies have been passed, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to ask the clerk to make sure.
No, the updated copies have been passed out.
No, but remember you wanted to change the word from reported and then the payments waived? You just mentioned that now.
Yeah, that's underlined on the amendment, Mr. Chair?
The only amendment I got here says reported, but payments shall be waived.
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
That's it.
Everybody's got it. Anybody like to speak to it? Not? Are there any objection? Yes. You have an objection? You have an objection? Okay. Wow, okay. Do you need to close on it?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Again, you know, the governor gave us a bill. It seemed innocent enough. Let's extend the liquid fuels tax relief that we have given consumers at the pump. But the bill, in actuality, as written, removes any reporting requirements from the government. We can't see anymore whether the savings is going to be passed to the consumers. Why are we doing that? Why are we going to give the businesses the relief and we can't prove that it's going to the consumers? That's the whole, my support of the bill, is because that was a very important part of it. And why cannot the government just know what taxes it is giving up? We do the same with tax credits. They report what credits, what taxes they want to be credited. We do the same with GRT relief. They still report their sales or their transactions, and then they just report that the payment is zero because they are exempt from payment. And so I'm just thinking we can continue to give the relief, and we can give it today, we can give it to the end of the fiscal year, but why not give the government the opportunity to get this information so that we can continue to make this kind of benefit? If we're going to be acting in the dark to protect businesses, we don't want to know anything, we don't even want to know the taxes that they don't have to pay, I don't think we're going to be able to give relief to the consumers. There's no way we're going to be able to give relief to the customers. And that's my goal, Mr. Chair. So I am imploring my colleagues to remove their objection. There's very few of us in here. We need your vote to pass this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the amendment? There's still an objection. Okay. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Amendment fails. Okay. We'll take a quick recess. Madam Vice, if you can come up here. Committee of the Whole is called back to order. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to reconsider the actions of the body on that last amendment of mine, to add the words reported, but payments shall be waived.
Are there any objections for the reconsideration? There being none, now we'll move to vote again. Okay. All in favor of the amendment that reported but payment shall be waived, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion amendment passes. Now we will go on recess. Senator Tyree.
Back from recess, Senator San Augustine, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill number 15S as amended in the Committee of the Whole with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole to be placed on the third reading file.
Is there any objection?
None.
Anybody?
None.
Anybody?
None.
Okay, there's no objections, so ordered. Senator San Augustine, continue, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to rise from the Committee of the Whole with the recommendation that Bill number 15S as amended in the Committee of the Whole be placed on the third reading file.
Okay. Objection. There's been an objection. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
In favor to rise?
To rise out of the Committee of the Whole.
Yes?
Okay, the motion fails.
Madam Chair, can we make a motion to rise out of the committee again? Sorry, Madam, can we make a motion to reconsider?
Senator Kanata, you're recognized.
Can we reconsider the motion?
You're making a motion
To reconsider the motion.
reconsider the motion.
Or the actions of the body, yes.
Okay, there's been a motion to reconsider the motion. Is there any objection to reconsider the motion? There is an objection? Okay, there has been an objection to reconsider the motion. All those in favor of reconsidering the motion, raise your hand. Motion fails. We're going to take a short recess. We're back from recess. Madam Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move to reconsider the amendment that requires companies to report that the savings are passed on to the consumers.
Okay. Okay, there's been a motion to reconsider the vote that was proffered by Speaker Terlahi on page 1. And this was the reporting declaring the number of gallons of liquid fuel that was voted on. So there's been a reconsideration. Is there any objection? No objection? Okay. Now we're going to vote on it. Okay. We are now on the amendment. Voting on the amendment to reconsider on the amendment. On the amendment, yeah, on the amendment. Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Chair. Yeah. Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, amendment fails. Mr. Chair was, okay, just wanted to make sure, okay. Okay, we're back in recess.
Ma'am, I have a point of inquiry. All right.
Madam Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Chair, I'd like to, notwithstanding the rules, make a motion to reconsider the actions of the body on that previous amendment, which requires companies to report whether they have passed on the savings to the consumer at the pumps.
Okay, there's been a motion to reconsider. Do we have any objections? There's been an objection to reconsider. Okay, so let's have a vote. All those in favor of reconsidering, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it passes. Okay. Now we're on the amendment itself. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Amendment passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Senator San Augustine, you are now recognized.
Madam Chair, I move to rise from the Committee of the Whole with a recommendation that Bill number 15S, as amended in the Committee of the Whole, be placed on the third reading file.
There's been a motion. Does anybody object to that?
None.
No objections. So ordered. We are now rising out of the Committee of the Whole and recessing.
We're back from recess. Acting Majority Leader, Senator San Augustine, Committee on Appropriations Chair, Senator San Augustine, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to report back to the body after deliberation on Bill number 15S as amended in the Committee of the Whole with a recommendation of the Committee of the Whole to place on the third reading file.
On the motion to accept the recommendations of the Committee of the Whole and place the bill on the third reading, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. There is no other item on the second reading, so is there a motion to proceed to the third reading? Senator,
Motion to move to this third reading without engrossment.
all right, there's a motion to vote on the bill without engrossment. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. So we'll proceed to the third reading. There's only one item, that is this bill. I'll allow, clerks, please let me know when you're ready. All right, colleagues. We're now going to vote on Bill number 15-S. Clerks, please read the title.
Bill number 15-S, as amended in the Committee of the Whole, introduced by Committee on Rules by request of Imaga Hagen Guahan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam. An act to authorize the extension of the Gas Tax Relief Act for the remainder of fiscal year 2024, ending September 30, 2024.
Roll call.
Senator Barnett. Senator Barnett, aye. Senator Blas. Senator Blas, aye. Senator Brown. Senator Brown, aye. Senator Dueñas. Senator Dueñas, aye. Senator Fisher. Senator Fisher, aye. Senator Lujan. Senator Lujan, aye. Vice Speaker Muñoz Barnes.
Is there a motion, Acting Majority Leader?
Motion to excuse members not present.
There's a motion to excuse members who are not present. Is there any objection to that motion? No objection? Members are excused.
Vice Speaker Muñoz Barnes excused. Senator Parkinson. Senator Parkinson excused. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, aye. Senator Kanata. Senator Kanata, aye. Senator San Augustine. Senator San Augustine, aye. Senator Siniclis. Senator Siniclis, aye. Senator Shelton. Senator Shelton excused. Senator Titagui. Senator Titagui, nay. Speaker Terlahi. Speaker Terlahi, aye.
Colleagues, Bill number 15-S received 11 ayes, 1 nay, and 3 excused. Bill number 15-S is duly passed by this body. That concludes our third reading. We will now go to brief extension of remarks. Is there anyone who'd like to be recognized on brief extension of remarks? Senator St. Nicholas, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Senator. On brief extension of remarks, Senator Kanata, you're recognized. Oh, on brief extension of remarks, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized? Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank my colleagues for compromising so that we could get this measure passed in what I believe is the best way for our people. And with that added level of accountability and transparency to make sure that when we are trying to help our people and certain businesses get a benefit, that they have to report to us. I think it's pretty basic. So again, I thank my colleagues for compromising on those amendments and for the very quick passage of this measure. And I also want to wish everybody on Guam a very Merry Christmas. It's been a very challenging year. We have faced many challenges, but we have overcome more than we have faced. And as we head into the new year, because I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to speak to the people before the new year, let's agree together to work not just harder, but smarter for our people. So, Feliz Pascuaza and Viva Año Nuevo. Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker.
Sidus Masi, Senator. On brief extension of remarks, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized? If not, Senator Kanata, you're recognized.
I make a motion to adjourn at the call of the speaker. Thank you.
There's a motion to adjourn, subject to the call. Well, this one would be call of the governor. This is a special session. So with that note, Merry Christmas, colleagues, and we are adjourned.